Hi, this is boxing referee Vic Draklich here with the Ringside Boxing Show. You're listening to the best in boxing.
Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, and John J. Responsi today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show. Hey, welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Network, where we've got another blockbuster interview coming up for you during the second half of today's show. In a few minutes, John Responti and I will be talking to three-time world champion Bobby Czyz, not only about his career, but about a life of incredible highs and lows. Bobby Czyz has been inducted into 4 different halls of fame as a boxer for a career in which he fought Evander Holyfield, Donnie Lalonde, Virgil Hill, Corey Sanders, Mustafa Hamsho, Prince Charles Williams, many others. But by all rights, he's fortunate to still be walking the earth right now. He was in 2 really bad car wrecks in his life, one of which put him in a coma for 28 days and in the hospital for 7 weeks. One of those accidents kept him from flying to Poland to compete as an amateur with Team USA. That plane crashed, killing everybody aboard. When Bobby Czyz was 20, his father committed suicide, and he did it on the same night that the two had a major argument. Bobby Czyz's first wife, an actress, died of cancer. He admits nearly committing suicide at least once in his life. Bobby had a lucrative, high-profile job as the ringside analyst for Showtime Championship Boxing, but he got fired after his 4th DUI and hasn't worked for a network since. As of June, he was working as a checker at a New Jersey grocery store, earning $250 a week. And now, against all odds, it looks like he might be right back on his feet again, doing ringside commentary for a major network starting in November. So we're going to talk to him about all of that. And by the way, Bobby Czyz is also a proud atheist, and he loves to explain why. So that's interesting. Another interesting sidebar that you're going to hear today. Bobby Czyz is a MENSA member, and he articulates his point of view very well. So we've had him on the show a few times, and he's never been anything but a straight shooter and fascinating. This is going to be a tremendous conversation with one of the sport's most colorful personalities, and that's coming up very shortly. Our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, is with us this week to tell us what's been going on in the United Kingdom, and we'll lead it off with a look at the Week in Boxing with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman is a professional boxer, trainer, and promoter from Osborne, Missouri. He's now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwan Zahid, a boxing journalist from Toronto. John J. Responti's chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and DogHouseBoxing.com. And John and I are co-authors of Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy, an Amazon bestseller. Hey, Travis, first of all, you promoted a fundraiser last week in Osborne, Missouri, which is a town of 400 people, and somehow you raised $10,000. Tell us how you did it and where that money's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything. Everybody that showed up donated that money, and that's what was amazing because it was such a small town. We're pulling from such small communities all around it. It shows how giving people in small communities really are. And I genuinely, I always say this, guys, and I mean, I think that these small towns in the middle of America, I think they're the backbone of America. I mean, I grew up around hardworking farmers that just worked their butts off and didn't really want much and expect much, except they worked really hard. And those are the people that are helping right now. And all of the money is going to a not-for-profit Children's Cancer Foundation. It's a local one that I actually personally know the people that started it. They're amazing people, and this is my 2nd year doing it. And it's been such a big hit that we've slowly grown it every year. Last year, I think we raised about $7,000, so this year was $10,000. And then we're going to do it again next year as well. So I'm just hoping to keep growing it and getting bigger and helping as many kids and families that are dealing with childhood cancer as they possibly can. And I tell everybody, and it's the truth, that a couple of years ago, I was just naive, I guess. I thought only, like, adults got cancer. I don't know why I would think that, but, like, it just didn't cross my mind that, like, children can get cancer. Like, the 4-month-old child had cancer. Like, that just, it's kind of just a terrifying thought to think that, your 4-month-old child got cancer not because of anything they did, not because of their lifestyle, because they were born with it, essentially. So that's why I'm, really passionate about helping with something like this. I mean, and that's why my event is called Fight for the Fearless. And we call it Fight for the Fearless 2, which is the second one this year. And we call it Fight for the Fearless because, we're fighting for these kids. They're doing their own fight, but we're trying to fight for them as boxers as best as we possibly can. And all of my professional boxing friends from the area, Kansas City, St. Joe, some of the surrounding bigger cities, they come and they volunteer their time to put on, sparring matches. And people just enjoy it, watch, eat food. It's just kind of like a full, 3 to 4 hour day. We do it in the city park right in the middle of this small, middle of America town. And all these people come out and have a really good time. And we happen to raise a little bit more money than we did last year. And I'm pretty proud of it. It's more of a passion project because we literally donate everything. The fighters donate their time. I donate my time organizing it. All these people donate everything. And it's really rewarding to me. That's why it's money at the end of the day. I've gotten to the point now where I'm 36 and I don't have a lot of money. But to me, money doesn't really mean that much anymore unless you're helping people. And that's why we're doing it. We're trying to help people. And that's kind of where I'm at in life at this point is I want to help as many people as I possibly can. And that's what we're doing with that.
Hey, way cool. And way to go, Osborne, Missouri.
Congratulations.
Okay. Hey, fellas. Okay, bloody good fight last night in Las Vegas. The bell rang before Tyson Fury could bleed to death, fortunately, against Otto Wallen.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Fury won a unanimous decision. Fury probably wasn't expecting that kind of test. I don't think any of us were, but he passed it under some really difficult circumstances. He said he couldn't see out of his right eye for 9.5 rounds, and I think I believe him. He had a laceration over his eyelid, actually 2 different cuts, but he weathered the fight and won it anyway, Riz. And that's the kind of thing I think that adds to a fighter's aura. It's kind of like rising from the dead in the final round against Deontay Wilder. He's got a couple of these things on his resume now, and I think he probably impressed people.
I think it's amazing. The event and the main event specifically kind of had everything. You had the champ who had to battle through adversity. You had the challenger who, was outclassed, but was never out of the fight in many ways. Yeah. You had entertainment, you had drama, you had a referee who was professional enough to be safe for the fighters, but never got overly involved. Medical staff did the same thing, understanding the impact that this fight had on not just this fight, but future fights for each guy. And the judging was great. It's rare when everything comes together in one fight, and this is one of those, because a lot of people didn't think, people have seen Wallin and they know he's limited, but they know he has some power. And you saw last night he was able to buzz Fury a couple times, even if he didn't cause him too much trouble. But Fury had to fight with the cut, and that's the thing about boxing. No matter, we've seen it at times where everything could be going the right way, and a cut just derails it. And we've seen guys who are leading on scorecards but lose with a cut. Look at Vitaly Klitschko and Lennox Lewis. Yep. Probably one of the best examples we can think of it. Vitaly was on a short turnaround. Lewis was supposed to fight Kirk Johnson. Vitaly comes in, beating Lewis pretty comfortably, but that cut that was caused by the cuff of the glove, and that changes everything, and that rewrites history. So we thought that maybe we were getting that moment last night, because you had to, maybe not for Fury, but you could see at least some of the crowd in his corners probably looking at when the doctor was inspecting him, wondering that, okay, there's maybe a slight chance they stop it. But he was safe enough to fight on, and he did. And it's rare that it all kind of comes together, but no one's stock went down last night, and that goes top to bottom. That's that goes for the judges, that goes for the referee, that goes for Wallin, and obviously for Fury himself. This just magnifies why Fury has become this almost likable people's champion, which is almost the complete opposite of what he was a couple years ago. It's the funny thing is before yesterday he said, I want to find out if I'm better now than I was in 2015. And I don't think it's even an argument anymore. I think he's significantly better, because I think the one thing you've definitely seen is that his heart has I mean, I don't think that he lacked heart, so to speak, a few years ago. Battling with heart was really in the sport the way it is now, because he battled so much adversity outside of the ring to get back into the ring, and you don't do that unless you're all in. And we've seen that Fury's all in. He's not just about money and getting big fights, but he's about winning, and he understands that him being just an opponent is not good enough, especially with how wide that landscape is. We said this for the first Wilder and Fury fight, that each one of them could be the other one's nightmare, and I think we saw elements of that in the first fight. And the rematch, I think, is probably looking to be the same. Would it surprise me if Wilder comes out and knocks Fury out? Absolutely not. Would it surprise me if Fury outboxes him for 12 rounds? Absolutely not. But the one thing I definitely noticed is Fury was definitely in better shape yesterday than he was against Wilder, even if the weight was only 1 or 2 pounds different. But I do think he still has to get in slightly better shape because, getting caught, again, we've seen now twice where he gets caught in the 12th round. Obviously, getting caught by Wilder and getting caught by Wallin are two different things. But if that same scenario happens in round 12 in the rematch, I don't think this time he's able to get away with it, and I don't think this time he's able to pull off the Undertaker and rise from death. But it's shaping up to be a good rematch. I don't know when they're aiming to get it done, just because the Wilder and Ortiz fight rematch keeps getting delayed, and they're looking at end of November now. So that's a significant wait just from now till then. But Fury has almost revitalized heavyweight boxing on his own, and not so much in terms of him being the best, which some people still argue that he's not, but just in terms of watchability and he, I don't know, sometimes you forget this guy's 6'9", 260 pounds, and his footwork and his feints and everything top to bottom. Again, he's way better than he was in 2015. He's had a career resurgence, which is weird because a guy, usually career resurgence happen when guys lose, not when the stuff going on outside the ring that just prevent him. And I just think just to get back into the ring, he battled so much adversity. And I think last night, the Wilder fight, all these kind of things say, I'm here to stay. Where if these situations happened 4 years ago, like if Vladimir drops him in the 12th round of their fight, does he get up the same way? I don't know if he does. If he gets cut in that fight, does he fight on? I don't know if he does. Where now, though, there's almost no doubt that Fury's heart has impressed people in more ways than one over the last couple of years.
Hollywood could not even write a better script than the Tyson Fury story, to be honest.
Right. That's right. That's absolutely right. He's, I only disagree a little bit with what Riz said as far as his heart. I remember, he might have more heart now considering what he went through in his life, and because he's grittier now than I think he was then. But if you remember, Steve Cunningham knocked him right on his back, and he got up and he put Steve Cunningham away a round or two later. And he had some adversity earlier in his career when he was knocked down, and it's almost like, unlike some guys who get knocked down where they get maybe a little tentative, he almost like gets annoyed about it and comes on strong. Now last night he got buzzed in the 12th round. He was hurt in the 12th round, and he played it smart. And he didn't so much shoot for revenge as he grabbed him and then went back to boxing a little bit. So I agree with Rizzo as far as him being better than he was in 2015. I totally agree. It took me a while to come around to the guy just because I thought he was way over the top, and he is. But his flamboyance is not something that I really like. I think he's a genuine guy. I obviously think he's a genuine fighter now, for sure. He's quick. He's a freak, almost. At 6'9", the way he can move, fast hands. You just don't see that. And Wallin, we got to give him credit. This guy's a 30-1 underdog coming in, 30-1. And in the third round with that cut, I'm thinking, my God, this would be the biggest upset in boxing history, bigger than Buster Douglas, obviously bigger than the one we just had a few months ago with Andy Ruiz. This would be the biggest upset because nobody saw it like those. Nobody saw it coming. But Wallin, again, he was fighting for his father, and when I saw that, sometimes it doesn't play, but a lot of times in sports, when you're fighting for somebody like Buster Douglas was fighting for his mother, you guys remember that? Wallin was fighting for his dad. And that, I think that connection to somebody that, like that, your parents, who obviously you love so much, it makes you even more determined. Where like last night, I think that was about as good as he can fight. He's never gone that far. And if he had more experience, who knows? He might have pulled off the upset. Things happen that I don't think they could have predicted. But again, I think he was going on emotion and adrenaline, and a guy that was sitting there thinking, look, this is my shot, and I'm not going to be 10 years from now saying I didn't give it my best shot. He did. He gave it his best shot. He almost won. Obviously, his stock goes up, way up. And same with Fury. I agree with that, too. I think he's great for the game. I think even when he's fighting somebody, an unknown like this, you want to see it just because his ring walks are hilarious, and he's a breath of fresh air. And whatever happens in the heavyweight division in the next 6 months, with him involved, with Ruiz, with Joshua, I mean, I don't think any of them are great fighters, like I've said numerous times. But hell, it's very interesting, and it's a lot more intriguing than it was years ago. And the bottom line is, it really, really helps the sport.
Travis, before we came on the air, we were talking about the Wilder rematch supposed to happen in February. With this cut not likely to happen, but you had some insight of what the conventional wisdom is about a cut and how long it takes a fighter out.
Yeah, the old school guys will say for every stitch they consider that a month of heal time. So if you have 5 stitches, they say 5 months. And I'm pretty sure we've all seen that cut on Tyson Fury. It's 2 cuts, actually. Who knows how many stitches he's going to get? So I think everybody's right because of a lot of.
Whoops, you still there, Travis?
Yes, sorry. I think everybody's.
Okay, you're there. You're there. Okay, we hear you.
Right here that Wilder and Fury rematch is going to get postponed. I think for 2 reasons. Because Wilder hasn't fought Ortiz yet. And that fight keeps getting postponed, and I don't think we're going to see Fury in the ring in February. And I think everybody's going to be not upset that the Fury and the Wilder fight's going to get postponed. They're not going to be upset because Fury, he's a class act, man. The guy puts on a show. He's an entertainer. You know what he is? Tyson Fury is a gold mine for any promoter, for any television network. This guy, I'm telling you, this guy is Hollywood, man. This guy, there's going to be massive, amazing blockbuster movie made after this guy because he's just got a huge story. I mean, he's got the story where he's been to the very top. He's been to the very bottom in his personal life, all of the mental health issues and just where he's at now. And last night was awesome because he said it in the pre-fight meetings. He said, I want to have a war. He's like, I need a war. And guess what? He got a war last night. And it was probably more so because of the cut. But he got a war, and it was on a Mexican Independence Day weekend, so it was just fitting. Tyson Fury just seems to attract entertainment. I mean, look at his fights. Like Dennis was saying, he fights a guy that nobody's ever heard of, but yet it was an amazing fight. I guarantee you that after about the 3rd or 4th round, people were calling their friends, and they were like, hey, guess what? You guys need to turn this fight on. Because most people are like, oh, Fury's going to beat him. It's a 30-1. They're just setting up a rematch. But I bet you so many people tuned in after about the 3rd, 4th, 5th round because their friends were like, hey, you guys better watch this. This is an amazing fight. And it was. And Fury, like I said, he just attracts entertainment. He attracts grittiness. He's a gold mine, guys. He's a gold mine. And I like watching him, and I've become a very, very big fan of Tyson Fury. And I'm excited for any fight that he's in. He can fight anybody. He can fight a guy from Sweden named Wallin that nobody's heard of and make it exciting. So I'm gushing over Tyson Fury, and I've been a big fan of him. I just remember after the Klitschko fight, I seen his style, and it actually made me really mad to watch that fight. His style was so annoying, but it's gotten better. It's crazy because he beat, the lineal champion of the world, which is Vladimir Klitschko, and he's gotten better since then, which seems crazy that he beat the lineal champion of the world and easily the best heavyweight in the last 10 years, you could say, is Vladimir Klitschko for sure. And he beat him, and I think Tyson Fury has gotten better. And that's a little scary for all these other guys. And I'm on record. I think he's the best heavyweight out there. I think he's better than Joshua. I think he's better than Deontay Wilder. And at the rate he's going, with the mental toughness that he has, and he's kept it together now. And that was my only worry about Tyson Fury was I always knew he could bring it back. I just wanted to see if he could sustain that mental and keep it all together when all of the spotlight's on him. And he's handled it well. I mean, he couldn't have handled it any better the past, 4 fights. He's just handled everything so amazing, and the spotlight's been directly on him. And he's been kicking butt. And he's the best heavyweight in the world right now. And I 100% go on record in saying that. And I know that Anthony Joshua is amazing still. I know that Ruiz beat Joshua, and they're back to rematch. I know Deontay Wilder had a draw with Tyson Fury, but I think Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight in the world right now, bar none.
Okay, and hey, you're going to have to leave in just a couple minutes, but so let me throw you this next one too. What do you think of Devin Haney? 20 years old. We saw him go to 23-0, stop the second-ranked lightweight in the WBC's rankings, Zaur Abdullayev, in the 4th round at Madison Square Garden on Friday. Like I said, only 20 years old, but he just became the mandatory for Vasily Lomachenko, who he called out after the fight. How do you like him? How do you like Haney?
Well, I like Haney. I think Haney's super talented. But I think Haney is in that division in the wrong era because he's with Lomachenko. There's nobody else in that division that really can touch Lomachenko. I don't think Devin Haney can either. And that's not even taking anything away from Devin Haney because I think Devin Haney is phenomenal talent. That guy, he's pretty dang legit for sure. And last night with that stoppage, I think it put him up there for sure too. But it's just hard, guys. Like it's like being a part of the era in basketball when Michael Jordan is there. You know, there's a lot of Hall of Famers that would probably dominate during that era. Like, for one, the Utah Jazz, they would have won a lot more championships if it wasn't for Michael Jordan. And that's whoever is in Vasily Lomachenko's weight class right now, that's like being in the era of Michael Jordan. It's an unfortunate era because you're with a great. And Lomachenko's a great. So it's very, very hard to live up to those expectations. If Lomachenko wasn't there, a guy like Devin Haney, he's got the talent to rule a division for sure like that. But it's tough for me, guys, to put anybody, even anywhere near Lomachenko right now because the guy's just a crazy talent. And would it be an amazing fight with Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko? 100% absolutely. But I have to pick Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko is still there's a big gap there. It's almost like the Mayweather, when it was Mayweather and then everybody else. And I think right now it's Lomachenko and then everybody else. And they're way, way down there. It's Lomachenko is way up in the sky. All these other guys are on the ground wanting to be up there with Lomachenko's at. He's just that much more talented, guys. And it happens every so often, once in an era, that we come across a great like that. And I think that's Lomachenko. He's proven it. I mean, we all know that. He's proven it. And Devin Haney's a young, hungry guy that can possibly test him, but I don't think he's going to beat him. And I think Lomachenko still rules that division. Anywhere near that division, Lomachenko rules, and it's just going to stay that way until Lomachenko decides to hang him up, I think.
The fight between Canelo and Kovalev got finalized a few days ago. It's going to happen November 2nd in Las Vegas. Two really interesting things here, I think. Kovalev said 2 or 3 weeks ago that he'd be willing to drop to a catch weight to get this fight with Canelo, but Canelo's going to fight him at 175. Canelo is a guy who has insisted on catch weights in the past. How surprising is this, number one, and how much tougher does it make this fight for Canelo Alvarez, Riz?
I think this actually works in Canelo's favor. Number one, he always walks around pretty heavy, and his catch weight was always him coming in heavier, and the other guy having to fight at his weight. So he would have the weight advantage. I think this is almost the other way around. I don't think he wants Kovalev coming in that light because the lighter Kovalev is, the more he's going to move. Where Canelo, there's a lot of people who said he walks around at 180 pounds or something like that. I think if anything, he'll actually be fighting fairly close to his natural weight. And I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's. It's not a catch weight because it doesn't. It's not really going to make much of a difference for him. Actually, I think 175. It's going to suit him. But you also have to think that there's a reason why the odds are as wide as they are. I mean, it still surprised me that they were that wide. But you got to think that there's no way Canelo moves up to this weight. You realize that they didn't call it anyone else a light heavyweight, right? They were specifically looking at Kovalev, and obviously there has to be a reason. And now we know Kovalev is older. We know he's not, we know he's not a spring chicken at all. But we also know that, we know he has power and all those sort of things. But there's a reason they're looking at Kovalev, and they have to see something that thinks that, yes, we can jump weight and beat this guy easily. We know Canelo has very underrated boxing skills. We know he has great head movement. We know he has underrated defense. But again, I'm surprised how wide the odds are. But we've seen Kovalev. They say, no fighter likes it, but Kovalev definitely has a weakness to the body, or leaving his body shots open. Canelo is obviously very successful to the body. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to really hurt Kovalev and slow him down towards to end of the fight. But there's, out of all the other light heavyweights, none of them were called out except Kovalev. So clearly Canelo on his side see something, and that's probably why the odds are as wide as they are. But it will be an interesting fight. The odds are, again, super wide, and you got to think that Kovalev is definitely probably past his best days, because it seems like every fight he has now, he never looks great. He overcomes adversity to win, but there's always moments where he looks like he's done. The only thing I will say is this: if Canelo's not able to land to the body and Kovalev is able to box effectively, Canelo better have a plan B, because Anthony Yarde is a powerful guy. Like, there's no doubt we see the power that guy has. And if he wasn't able to get to Kovalev early, Canelo, who's known to be a guy who slows down towards the end of the fight, what is he going to do if he's behind on the scorecards? It'll be interesting to see how he carries the weight, literally and figuratively, when it comes to fight time. But it's definitely an intriguing fight, to say the least.
Okay, John, let's talk about those odds. Riz posted them last week when he found them, and Canelo opened at minus 400, Kovalev at plus 300. What that means is that you have to lay $400 on Canelo to win $100, or you can bet $100 on Kovalev to win $300. How much confidence does a guy have to have in Canelo Alvarez to take that bet on Canelo? I mean, you got to put up $400 to try and win $100. Who's going to do that?
I don't understand why anybody would do that either, Dennis. You're asking the wrong guy. Why would you do that? That seems silly to me. I think the odds could possibly go down a little bit, but not much. I also think that Kovalev has the best trainer in his corner for his plan for this fight, and Buddy McGirt. As we know, Buddy is one of the best. They asked him about Kovalev's problems to the body, and he said, we're going to work on that. He knows what to expect. So that should help Kovalev as much as possible. But as we saw against Yarde, obviously he's past his prime, as we saw. And I don't like it in a sense because, as Riz said, and I'm going to be more blunt about it, it's kind of cherry picking. It's winning another title. You're taking the weakest guy in the light heavyweight division at this point. If you wanted a belt in the light heavyweight division, why didn't you fight him a few years ago? Okay, that's kind of a dumb question, but the whole concept to me is kind of dumb. To me, it's just winning another belt, like I said. That's all it is. But I don't blame him for doing that, but I think it's a little cheap in a sense. Add another belt around your arm that you can carry around, okay, fine. But the best point that I think Riz made was, Canelo better have a plan B, because all those odds, all that talk, all that stuff go right out the window if it's round 9 and he's getting gassed and Canelo and Kovalev's working behind that jab and he can't get to him, or round 10 maybe. They're both tired, but the body shots aren't landing, and Kovalev keeps sticking that jab in his face. I mean, just ask Andre Ward. He mentioned that with a chuckle every time he talks about that jab. It's stiff, it hurts, throws you off balance. So obviously we all think Canelo's going to win, I'm sure, but if it's late in the fight and he's getting hit in the mouth a lot of times and he's getting a little gassed himself and he can't get to the body, then that's why this fight is so intriguing. Even with an older Kovalev, and then he comes over with a right hand, who knows? So if you're going to bet, I would say you should bet on Kovalev. obviously, because he might hit the home run. It's unlikely, but again, I don't know why anybody would bet put that much money down to win $100. I don't understand it, Dennis. You're going to have to explain it to me. As I said, I'm no gambler. I've never understand. That one is a big time mystery.
Okay, how about this? Riz, are you surprised that Rob McCracken admitted last week that he was aware that Anthony Joshua had suffered a concussion during his fight with Andy Ruiz last June, but he was trying to get him through a couple more rounds? McCracken said Joshua came back to the corner glassy-eyed after the third round. DAZN Mike's caught Joshua between rounds asking, what round is it? Why am I feeling like this? Is anybody surprised that there hasn't been more of an uproar about this, considering the ring tragedies we've seen in recent months? How come McCracken's not really under a lot of fire right now?
I mean, I think for other sports the standards are a little different. You know, if it happened in football, I mean, there was a story coming out I think this week that I think it's the Giants receiver who, you know, they suspected had a concussion and the protocol kind of failed. But I mean, I think the standards for punishment or the standards for hurt are different in boxing because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of what the sport is exactly that. So a guy fighting concussion is definitely not a smart thing to do. But if they thought he still had a chance to win, this is, I don't know, this has happened in boxing before. We've seen guys fight with permanent eye injuries and, you know, are willing to lay it all in the ring, even if it means potential blindness that later in their life. So I'm not that surprised because I think the standards is again different in boxing. I mean, you know, other sports are trying to clean up their safety, and boxing is cleaning up their safety more after the fact, right? That we want to minimize the damage, and we, you know, that fights can be stopped sooner and all that. But it doesn't mean boxers, you know, and fans don't cheer for still a one punch knockout. So the reaction in boxing is obviously a little different, but you know, I think it's a very slippery slope in boxing. You know, if you start changing that, because then you're actually changing what the essence of the sport is. In hockey and football, the objective is not to you know, hurt the opponent. That is the case in boxing. Yes, it's to hit and not get hit, but you know, the job is to hit, and with that hit sometimes comes injury. So I'm not that surprised. But that being said, I mean, you know, the trainer's job is to still win as much as to protect the fighter. But you know, there's a responsibility with the trainer, there's responsibility with the referee, with the medical staff. You know, all of them kind of have a place in this. Especially, you know, the referee probably doesn't get a great look, you know, straight into the fighter and doesn't hear them talking and stuff as much. But you know, the medical staff and the doctor at ringside definitely does. And you know, what they say, you know, usually goes. If they told the ref, I think he has a concussion, this fight should be stopped, the ref would stop the fight. If they're not saying that, and the ref is, you know, it's not the ref's job to, you know, just assume he has a concussion. But it is, and you know what? I'm sure Joshua, after the fact, probably said, I'm glad he didn't stop the fight because he thought he was still in it. And that's the other thing. Joshua was still very much in that fight. He dropped the Ruiz and he thought he had him, and you know, everything kind of changed. You know, but such is boxing. I mean, if Joshua was losing every round at that point, then I'm sure the reaction and uproar would be different. But because it was actually a pretty close fight throughout, it can't be that surprising that he had a concussion. I mean, I think most of us who watched it pretty much saw right away, yeah, that's a concussion. We were almost sure about it, so it wasn't exactly a surprise to anyone. I guess we're a little surprised that the trainer knew about it, or more surprisingly, the trainer admitted that he knew about it and let the fight go on. But I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. And you know, to be honest, in some ways, if there was an uproar of this, what were you going to do? You know, what's going to be changed? I think what needs to be changed, the medical staff maybe needs to have a better idea of when to actually inspect the fighters. Because if we could all see it, there's a concussion, why couldn't the medical staff on site see it? And if they were able to see it, it's their job to inform the referee to stop the fight.
Okay, last one, and you get this one too. John had to take off. Fight between two light heavyweight champions, unbeaten guys, has been made. Oleksandr Gvozdyk and Artur Beterbiev is official for October 18th. This, to me, could be the best matchup for the remainder of 2019. Both guys, neither guy's lost a fight. They're both outstanding. We're going to see on ESPN who wins this one.
This one is the most underrated fight of the year, and this could be a fight of the year because both guys, in addition to be both super powerful, super well-schooled fighters, they both have serious amateur backgrounds and are actually just great boxers. They both have skill levels that are, well beyond most. I think Kovalev has fought the better competition for sure, and because of that, I think he has a slight advantage. Beterbievr's power can lay out any fighter at any time, but I think Kovalev's a little more well-schooled at this point. Beterbiev's had some layoffs in his career. I think that's definitely hurt him because he's a little older. Kovalevs, meanwhile, has had that steady rise that you want with fighters, including, knocking out Adonis Stevenson before Adonis got hurt, and thankfully seems Adonis is, for the most part, recovered. Kovalev's just kind of looked better each time out. Beterbiev has had some up and downs. Never looked bad, but we saw him dropped, and we saw that, maybe there's maybe when he comes forward so much, a better schooled fighter might be able to expose that, and that could be Kovalevs. But I wouldn't be surprised if both fighters are down and hurt at different points in the fight. But I mean, this fight has the balance of war and quality written all over it, and I think this is the most underrated fight of the year.
Hey, there you have this week's truths from Rizwan Zahid, Travis Hartman, John J. Responte. These guys are the best. John's going to be back in a few minutes to help me interview Bobby Czyz. Riz, have a great week. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and our British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, is on deck after a very quick break, so do not go away. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, where since 2008 we have been continuously sponsored by Garcia Boxing, the first family of the Sweet Science on California's beautiful Central Coast. Trainers Max and Sam Garcia and ring strategist Dean Familton are regarded among the most knowledgeable in the game. And Kathy Garcia, who manages all Garcia boxing fighters, is renowned for her integrity and career guidance, having taken 2 boxers to #1 world rankings. Together they comprise one of the most respected teams in the sport. Learn more by calling 831-261-3214 or send them an email at garciaboxing25@aol.com.
Hey, and just a reminder about Garcia Boxing. This coming Saturday on Showtime, you're going to get another opportunity to watch Garcia Boxing's star attraction, and that's undefeated featherweight Ruben Villa IV, RV4, who's going to be putting a 16-0 record on the line against Enrique Vivas, who is 17-0. This should be a really interesting co-feature on a card that also will showcase another terrific up-and-comer from the Thompson Boxing Stable, Mike Dutchover. Check it out. Should be an exciting night.
If you like the Ringside Boxing Show, you're going to love the website, ringsideboxingshow.com.
What are you doing?
Hi there, it's Paul McLaughlin with your weekly roundup of everything going on in the UK boxing scene at the moment. Well, Tyson Fury was forced to overcome a terrible cut above his eye to defeat Otto Wallin in Las Vegas last night. Former world heavyweight champion Fury won via unanimous decision at the T-Mobile Arena, but needed to dig deep when he was badly bloodied and thrown off his stride in the 3rd round. Remaining unbeaten in his 30 fights keeps him in line for a rematch with WBC champion Deontay Wilder in February. They drew an exciting battle last year, but have unsettled business. Now, Fury might have hoped for a showcase performance on Mexican Independence Weekend, a traditional time for major fights in Vegas, but was instead required to show the type of toughness that Mexico's most famous boxers are known for. Here's what he said after the fight.
Big congratulations to Otto. I just want to say rest in peace to his father. I know he'd be very, very proud of the performance that Otto Wallin just did. The great Swede, the Viking warrior. It was a great fight, you know. I got caught early on with the inside of the glove on the eyelid, which cut the eye, changed the fight completely. For majority of the fight, I couldn't see out my left eye, and then Southpaw Orthodox clashed heads and give me a second cut. I've not seen the cut, but it feels quite bad. But, you know, I am a gypsy warrior. This is Mexican Independence Day. Come on, Mexico! Viva Mexico!
He also went on to call out Deontay Wilder after this fight, but will need to put in a better performance in that fight than he did in this. Elsewhere, Chris Eubank Jr. can receive future fights against Billy Joe Saunders or Callum Smith if he still wants to achieve his world title ambitions, says Eddie Hearn. Now, Eubank Jr. has not fought since a career best win over James DeGale earlier this year, and Eubank's unbeaten start of his career was ended by Saunders, who now holds the WBO super middleweight title in 2014. And Eubank Jr. was eliminated in the semi-finals of the World Boxing Super Series last year by George Groves, who then lost his WBA title to Smith in the final. Asked if he would approach Eubank Jr. with an inquiry, Hearn said, yes, 100%. Billy Joe and Callum Smith are both up for that fight. Now, I myself would like to see either of those fights, and do believe that Saunders and Smith have the better of Eubank Jr. And finally, David Haye can smile about it now, but he's been on the wrong end of the type of rage that Derek Chisora displayed this week. Now he's trying to hold him back, and that sums up the madcap world of the man once known as Del Boy, and who would change him. Chisora is a treasure of British boxing, and even in the autumn of his career, he remains a must-watch inside the ring, and as we again saw last week, out of it, especially if he's not the main event. When at the press conference he found out he wouldn't headline at the O2, but Progress and Taylor would, he got a bit heated.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions on this, so it's just clear right now as we see up here. Who's the main event of this fight?
Who's the main event?
Yeah.
It's the gentleman sitting next to you.
Mate, that's not going to work for me. I'm not going to sell out O2 for them guys to be the main event, so I'm not going to be like kid support to these guys. We need to change that.
And believe me, it got a hell of a lot more heated than that. You can watch it online. It's worth checking out. Right, that's your lot from me, guys, this week. I'll be back with more British boxing news next week. In the meantime, gloves up and protect yourselves at all times. Back to the studio.
Great job from Paul McLaughlin all the way from the land of the Royals. Thank you, Paul. Our featured guest is standing by, and I promise we will be right back.
Oh, boy, is this great!
I'm Dennis Taylor, co-author of the Amazon bestseller Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy. You know, writing this book was a labor of love for John J. Responti and myself. We enjoyed every minute of the process and considered it a privilege to tell the tale of one of the most electrifying boxing trilogies in the history of this sport. Intimate Warfare traces the collision course of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward from their earliest days through their 3 epic fights, as well as the aftermath of this great rivalry, which culminated in one of the greatest friendships in boxing. Intimate Warfare has received a 4.5-star rating from readers and was endorsed by Hall of Famers Harold Letterman and Joe Cortez and 2-time Trainer of the Year Virgil Hunter. Our foreword was written by Ray Boom Boom Mancini, another one of the greatest blood and guts fighters of our time. Get your copy today at Amazon.com.
Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Responti, and today's featured guest was a 3-time world champion in 2 weight divisions who compiled a record of 44-8 as a professional. His career spanned more than 18 years. He later became an outstanding ringside analyst for Showtime Championship Boxing. Bobby Czyz, the matinee idol, fought Evander Holyfield, Donnie Lalonde, Virgil Hill, Corey Sanders, Mustafa Hamsho, Andrew Maynard, Prince Charles Williams, many others, and has been inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame, the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, the Polish American Sports Hall of Fame. He's also a member of MENSA, recognition that his IQ tested among the top 2% of people in the world. So, John, you and me and Bobby have all that in common.
You bet.
Bobby, this is your 3rd or 4th appearance on the Ringside Boxing Show, and we're always glad to have you. It's been a few years, so thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
You bet. I'm good. The world championships are actually 3 different world championships. It's light heavyweight, cruiser, and super cruiser.
Okay, so 3 divisions. All right.
Yeah, 3 divisions. I fought in 6, but I've won world titles in 3.
Okay. Well, hey, first off, my partner here, John Responti, tells me that you've been having some issues with your back and hip, and I have the same thing. So I want to start off by asking you, it sounds like you've found a remedy. What can you share with us for people who suffer with back and hip problems?
I'll tell you what. Third week of May 2016, I went to get out of bed. I woke up in the morning, went to get out of bed, go to the bathroom, and I just collapsed. And my left side of my body was just in so much pain I couldn't walk. To walk literally 20 feet took me like 7 minutes. And I just was in so much pain. So I know my body pretty good. I made a living with my body. And I've always, been pretty healthy. So I called the orthopedic surgeon who rebuilt my right hand with bone from my hip. He fused some bone from my hip into my metacarpal and basically saved my career. So I called him and I said, "Listen, doc, I think I need a hip replacement." He said, "You can't diagnose yourself. You're not a doctor." I said, "I'm not a doctor, but I know my body pretty damn good." So a friend of mine, I couldn't make it to the top of the driveway. It's only 135 feet, but it was uphill, and I couldn't make it. So he strapped me into a wheelchair and dragged me up the driveway, put me in the car, took me to Jersey City. Doctor did 6 or 7 x-rays, and then sent me out for 4 scans. He said, "I'll get back to you in 2 days." Calls me back in 2 days and says, "You want the good news or the bad news?" I said, "Oh, come on, doc, don't mess with my head." He said, "The good news, you need immediate hip replacement on your left side." I said, "What the hell can be the bad news?" He said, "You need double hip replacement, but you can't do it within 18 months of each other because your body can't sustain it." I literally, and I mean this literally, I literally thought about shooting myself. Because the surgery is, they cut you open and you're in the hospital for 4 days. Then you got 2 weeks of in-house rehab, and then another 6 weeks of outsourced rehab. And I'm not. And then you got all that other crap going around at the airport. Special this, special that. So because of the scans, because of the titanium hips, you'll set off the metal detectors. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. And then literally less than a week later, I was hosting a golf tournament, but I made it the excuse why I couldn't play. And sure. I was just sitting in a golf cart and hanging out with a few friends, having a couple drinks, blah, blah, blah. And one of my friends, a lawyer that I know very well, he said, "Bobby, I got somebody you got to meet. She works for, she's from New Jersey, but she lives in California now. She works for Dr. McCord, who has invented this product." I said, "Yeah, okay, I've heard this story past 30 years. I've heard this story about 20 times or 30 times. None of it ever works. But I'll give it a shot." So I call her. She sends me the product, 30-day supply. I take it for the first week, and nothing. I mean, zero change. And she said, "Listen, you need 30 to 60 days for it to saturate your system." And I said, "All right, I'll play along." After 3 weeks, my pain was cut in half. So I was kind of impressed. I took it for another 2 weeks, I guess, and my pain was gone. That was 3 years ago. I walk, run, dance, do whatever I want now. There's zero pain in my hip. And I mean zero.
Oh my God.
Now here's the, and I understood, and my father was heavily into nutraceuticals, natural supplements. Yeah. And so I was very well aware of what a lot of things do, like green tea, turmeric, curcumin, and this product has 7 different elements, and I don't know the formula because he's got 5 patents on it, but I don't even care. And all I know is I want the product. Anyway, as time goes by, I'm getting better and better. Here's the weird thing. Sometimes I do a little too much, and my hips start to hurt at the end of the day. And I go, oh, crap. Because I know the next day the pain's always worse. With this product, the next day, everything's back to normal. Every single day.
Wow.
And it's a great product. Now, I had a friend of mine, he had arthritis in his spine. And he's a hair cutter. He was bent over so bad that he lost 45% of his customers. So I told him what to do. I told him, take this product, give it a shot. After 2 months, he got his whole business back together, stands up straight. Couldn't play. His favorite pastime, like mine, is playing golf. He couldn't play more than 10 holes, and he would just collapse. Plays golf now all the time. He's back to normal. And here's the funny part. It's actually not that funny. I had another friend of mine who needed double knee replacement. So he said, "What's the name of the product? I want to get it." I told him who to get it through. He went online to Amazon, where he found the same product, or he thought it was the same product, for 20% less, but it was a knockoff, and it wasn't the real thing, and it didn't work. I told him who to get it through, how to get it directly from the product from the doctor that invented it. This is 2 years later. He still hasn't had his knees replaced. It's an amazing product, and I literally don't ever want to be without it.
What, can you tell us the name of it?
Sure, I can do that. It's Protandim, Protandim. But if you don't get it through a registered distributor, you're going to buy a knockoff. It's not going to work.
Okay. All right.
And here's the other thing. I hate multi-level marketing. I hate it. But that's what they do with this. They do multi-level marketing. So if you call in for the Protandim and I can give you the distributor, use my name. You'll be a person that comes under my list, and then if you bring on people, it'll be people under you. They literally put money in an account for me every month. I don't even have to pay for the Protandim anymore. And even at that, it's only $48 a month. People pay more than that in coffee.
Yep.
I mean, most people spend more than that in little things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is for me, it's the most amazing product I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. I've endorsed 2 products over the years, but they both were too expensive. One was $135 a month, the other one was $155 a month, and people just won't go out of pocket for that kind of money sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. If you want to give that distributor on the podcast and tell people to register under your name, you can feel free.
Yes.
Be some money in your pocket, maybe. Yeah.
I'll do it right now.
Do it. Yep.
Sure. Go ahead.
The lady's name is Susan, Susan, Erb, ERB. Her phone number is 415-320-3733, and just mention Bobby Czyz.
There you go, man. All right, celebrity spokesperson.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's the one thing that I always had in boxing. I even got fired from Showtime for telling the truth.
Wow. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you were canned. They said for your 4th DUI, which that's on record.
Oh, so the first 3 didn't bother him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
the first three didn't bother him. The fourth one that was tipping the. What was it? That was my personal life. That had nothing to do with my professional life. I was still always on time and did the work.
And you maintain that you were actually fired because the network didn't like that you were exposing corruption in boxing.
Well, here's what happens. When I was fighting, people used to. I always gave an honest interview. I gave an honest interview even when I think I didn't do as well as I should have done.
Yep.
But I was always honest about it. And as I carried it into the broadcasting gig, people would write to me, send me letters, call me, however they could get in touch with me. Back then, in the very beginning, there was no internet and blah, blah, blah. Then eventually there was the internet, which made it a storm. But think about this. If fighter A is kicking the crap out of fighter B, and fighter B wins the decision, there are only two things that the judges could be doing. One is that they're stupid and they just don't know what they're doing. And the other one is they're corrupt. Even Einstein can't come up with a third reason. Nobody can.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always also, too, you understand that there's an agenda. The promoter is attached to certain fighters. Those fighters will always, and here it goes deeper than that. The sanctioning bodies, WBA, WBC, IBF, WBU, whatever, they know going into the fight, the promoter pays the judges. So the judges want to work regularly. They're going to lean toward any close round is going to his guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is a different corruption than the old days when the mob used to say, "Listen, you either go down or we're going to shoot you." You know, in the old days, they told them, like Sonny Liston with Ali. That that was a joke. The second fight, right? Everybody does.
Yep.
But in the old days, that was the way they used to threaten them. Now they don't have to even threaten them. They just buy the judges, and the judges just lean. They lean every round that's reasonably close. They lean toward the promoter's fighter. I mean, don't forget, the judges want to get paid and they want to keep working. So the organizations will put together 3 judges that they say is acceptable, and then the organizations, they're a joke too. They're an absolute joke. I remember one time I had someone that when I had the light heavyweight title, they said cruiserweight title. They said you have to fight so and so, and I said, well, the promoters are only offering X amount of dollars for that guy. How about if I want to fight this guy? They said, well, you send us $20,000 and we'll make an exception. It's blatant corruption. It's a joke. But that's the world. The real world
Bobby,
is.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I jumped in. I just wanted to ask you. I mean, I think anybody who really follows boxing closely and watches it agrees with what you're saying. I mean, there are decisions where you just think, right, they're either stupid or blind or it's corrupt. Why?
Well, think about this.
Okay.
Think about this. If they're so stupid that they can't figure out they can't follow the rules, they shouldn't be appointed to judge. But then, especially if they're corrupt, they shouldn't be appointed to judge.
Yeah.
But they're still there.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I was going to ask you. It's like a little club, right? In a sense, I mean, nobody will really step up and make the change. They might grumble. The fans will grumble about it, but nothing ever changes. What do you think has to be done? We've always talked about a boxing commission that oversees things, and I even have my doubts about that. They might even be in the bag. What do you see?
There was a time when this is the Senate of the United States.
Yes.
Reached out to me. Senator from Arizona, Senator from Delaware.
McCain,
yeah McCain. And I forget the other guy's name. They reached out to me. They brought me down to Washington, D.C. to testify in front of the Senate. And I said to them, no offense, but many of you guys have more degrees than a thermometer, but you can't fix anything. You can't fix anything, and you won't fix anything because money will get in the way. And I had a few people ask me these questions and go back and forth. They wanted me to become basically the executive director of boxing organization. I forget what they called it, and basically oversee everything. And they showed me and they wrote a bill. They wrote a bill. I read it and I said, "You'll never pay. This will never pass." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Which word didn't you understand?" "This will never pass. You will never get this to pass Congress." Now they sent it to Congress. It came, instead of the Professional Boxing Corporation Act, which is what they called it, it came out as the Professional Boxing Safety Act. It had nothing to do with corruption. Nothing. It didn't change one thing. Not one thing. As I told them it wouldn't. I said, you guys are you're the biggest mafia on the planet. Now you say this in the Senate in front of people. Sometimes it offends people, but it's still the truth. They can't fight it. I said, you guys are the biggest mafia on the planet. Whatever you guys pass is garbage. And I mean, I'll give you another example that people don't actually understand. Senators, House of Representatives, Congress. Okay, that's your whole Congress. Do you know that they don't have to pay Social Security? They don't pay Social Security, and we pay Social Security, and we get a pittance of that when we retire.
Yeah.
You know what they get when they retire? You know what they get?
What?
Yeah.
They get their last year's salary for life, and their spouse gets half that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you want to know why we're $17 trillion in debt? There you go. It's just look. If you do the research, and most people don't take the time to do the research, and people bust my chops a lot because I'm not religious. And I said, so I always ask people, do you know how many religions there are in the world? Now, as of the year 2000, there was about 3,300. Now there's about 4,200. I said, which one should I pick? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, which one should I pick? Well, just pick anyone that you like. Oh, and that makes it okay?
Yeah.
Just because I like it, that makes it okay? Yeah. And, I have problems with people who don't think clearly. And think about this. If there's 4,000 religions, that means one of them's right and all the rest are wrong?
Or all of them are
wrong. All wrong.
Yeah.
So you know what?
I'm
out of here. Yeah, I'm out of here. But, people, they bust my chops over that stuff.
Yeah. You know, Bobby, I want to ask you about your boxing career a little, though. I want to ask you about, what do you consider your fond memories? I mean, did you consider that you have more fond memories of your boxing career, or is it kind of a mixed bag? Forgetting all this, you can't forget this corruption, but what do you think of is there something in your career that makes you smile when you think about it? I mean, you won some titles and everything. It was great.
Well, yeah, the 3 world titles and multiple defenses that were successful. They're pretty exciting. I mean, there's something that may ring your bell. When I was a teenager, I could never understand why a girl cried when she was happy. I thought to myself, what the hell is that? And then I knocked out Slobodan Kachar, and I started to tear up. And I wiped it away because I didn't want to seem weak, but I wasn't weak. It was just that the enormity of what I had just done, based on how I started out, and I thought it would take me 14 years when I was 10 years old to win a world title, and at 24 I won my first world title. And I know what I went through. See, people see, when you get in the ring, they see the finished product. They don't see what it took to get there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They don't see, all your feet bleeding and blistering from running, and your jaw dislocated, your nose broken, swollen eyes, and they don't see all the horror you went through in the gym for all those years. And they just see the finished product. But at the end of the day, I started to tear up, and I just realized that I just walked into history, and now technically I'm immortal. I'm in the sports history books 3 times, and I can't die. Mm-hmm. That's what. Sure. And you know what? I had 4 partial pre-med scholarships offered to me, 4 different colleges, and a senatorial appointment to West Point, free ride for everything.
Jeez.
I turned them down because I wanted to be immortal. I turned them down because I wanted to live forever and be in the history books. And I basically did what I came here to do.
Yeah.
Looking back, are you happy with that? You happy with the decision you made?
Yeah. I would jokingly say, no, I'm not going to say it. It's a little too crude.
Well, I mean, I don't blame you, because in your obit, it's going to, they're going to say that you were a world champion.
3 times.
Not
many of us are going to have that written,
Yeah.
Well, it's the thing that it drove me. It just was the thing that drove me crazy, and I had to do it. I just had to do it. And there were times when my dad passed away. I was only 21 at that time, but there were times when I came home I fell asleep in my food, or I was bleeding and just, I couldn't barely lift my head up. And my mother would say, "Why are you doing this, son? What the hell are you doing this to yourself for?" And I told her, I said, I need to be special. And my mom's Catholic, so she still jokingly says she has flat knees praying for her sons and all of that. But yeah, she's not an atheist, as me and my brothers are. But I have a lot of friends that always try and urge me into one religion or another. I had a friend of mine who was a Catholic, a nice kid, and he said, I want you to meet my priest. He's a great guy. He's really brilliant, and blah, blah, blah. Father McMurphy, a little Irish guy, Irish brogue. And I said, look, my friend wants me to come to one of your sermons. I said, if you can answer one simple question for me, simple question, I'll come to your next sermon. And he said, okay, my son, ask away. I said, mankind in its current form, modern day Homo sapiens, have been on the planet about a couple 100,000 years, right? He said, sounds about right. So Jesus Christ just showed up 2,000 years ago, right? He said, okay. I said, what happened to 198,000 generations of people? Where did they all go? Hell, heaven, by default? How they weren't told what to worship and who to worship. And he looked at me with this dead blank stare.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, you don't understand. 90% of the people who have been born in the past 2,000 years. I said, I'm not talking about 90%. I'm talking about 100%. Why did God throw them all those millions of people away? And he looked at me and he said, you just have to believe it. He turned around and walked away, never came back. I said, see, that's what I'm not blind. I'm not blind, and I'm not stupid. But I need a little proof.
I'll give you one more math problem. When you think of all the planets that are on the in the universe, who knows how many? There's millions. A lot of them are probably.
You know what? Technically, based on what they've just. I mean, when listen, I'm a straight A student. I'm a member of MENSA. When I graduated high school, there were only 9 planets in the universe because that's the only ones we could find.
Right. Yeah.
Now, because of the Hubble and space and the satellites in space, we can find billions.
But we're told that God sent His only Son to this one, and it just seems like humans are pretty arrogant to think that was real.
Remember, who's the comedian? He said, mankind is so above it all, and then Sushi, and he said that the aliens come down here just to find to basically dissect our body parts. I mean, it's just insane. The odds of there not being other life forms is probably 10 billion to 1 against.
Yeah.
And the fact that some of them might have visited here, think about this. The pyramids that were built 4,000 years ago, that's before Jesus Christ. 4,000 years ago, we still can't duplicate them now. Who built them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are mysteries.
Good question.
Those are mysteries that may never be figured out, or not. They won't be in my lifetime, I bet. But it makes you think. But if you think honestly, okay. Like I joke with people all the time. People say to me, "Well, God is good. Then why does He let babies be born crippled? Why does He let babies be born deformed? Why wouldn't He let them all be born healthy? Mm-hmm. If He's controlling everything, why isn't He fixing stuff?" Nobody has an answer because there is no answer.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd have a national boxing commission. So, John, go. Let's get back to boxing here. So,
yeah. I love this, Bobby, but I want to. This is really a good question that we have here about Tony Ayala Jr. We all remember him, and from what we've learned, Dennis, I guess you two guys got real violent in sparring, that they had to stop putting you in the same ring together. And we think you said you felt a certain kinship with him because you and he had similar issues with your fathers. Do you mind talking about that whole thing with Tony Ayala Jr.?
Not at all. Here's the issue. His father was violent, as was my father.
Yeah.
But my father was also very intelligent and forced me to get straight A's. If I came home with 4 A's and 2 B's, I got an ass whooping. Mm. So it was one of those things where I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, I gotta. But here's the thing. I'm gonna take this and break it down because it's a long story. But people like Tony Ayala and myself, the way we were raised and beaten and abused. I'm going to go off on a deep end here. We have, in our childhood, in our young adulthood, we have the triad of serial killers, serial rapists. And I don't know if you know what the triad is, but the triad is as follows. Killing small animals, wetting the bed late in life, and setting fire to everything you can. I did all those things as a kid up until my early teens, but then it became harder and harder for me to get the straight A's and do the boxing. By the end of the day, I was from reading, studying, and fighting. I was exhausted, so I fell asleep. I couldn't do anything. I had bad thoughts. I know what the thoughts were. Tony Ayala didn't have to get straight A's, so he had plenty of time to go do some bad stuff. And I think because of what his dad put him through, that's where he wound up, because that seems to be, based on the research I've done and the shows I've seen and the documentaries I've seen, that's where the serial killers and the serial rapists come from. And, you know, have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, run back, shower, have breakfast, go to school, come home from school, go straight to the gym, train for an hour and change, and get picked up, come home, back home, eat dinner, do your homework, and you go to bed, and you're too tired to do anything bad. And so in some ways, boxing actually saved my life. It kept me from bad stuff.
You were talking a few minutes ago about considering putting a bullet in your head, in your own head, and you have had misfortune in your own life, some of it self-inflicted, that has been beyond the pale to most of us. You've been in bad car wrecks. Your dad committed suicide. You lost a small fortune in a divorce. You were almost on a plane that killed your Team USA teammates. You lost your job as a Showtime analyst. You lost your money in a divorce. Is that what got you through life? Why are you still around, man?
Yeah. You know what? I think I have to give that credit to my father.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why. He made it clear to me that my brain runs my body, which it does. And if I can keep it in check, I can keep everything else in check. And there are times, like my dad used to say, and this is another thing that really bothered me. This is part of the problem with my dad. He used to say there's only two reasons I would ever commit suicide. One, if I was terminally ill, I wouldn't put the family through the financial pain and emotional pain. I'd just take myself out. I said, what's the second one? He said, if you didn't love me. Not my brothers, not my sister, not my mother, me. And that sort of bugged me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm Robert Edward Czyz Jr. I was his namesake, so I get it a little bit. But I was living his dream. He wanted to be a fighter. He made me and both of my brothers fight. I was 10. My brothers were 9 and 7 when we started. I mean, that's young to start that kind of regimen. But it turns out that after 5 years, he said, you guys can all quit if you want. And I didn't want to quit because I was 15 years old and I was banging guys out that were ranked in the world in the pros. I said, I can do this. And he actually said, you can quit, because I had two surgeries on my nose and I had some problems. And he wasn't real, thrilled to see me in the hospital getting operated on and all of that. But he supported me. But he always taught me, think with your brain, not with your emotions. And I suspect that had a great deal to do with, me getting where I am.
Yeah.
Talking to Bobby Czyz on the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Responti. Bobby, a lot of people know this story, but we got a lot of people in our audience who have never heard it. I just alluded to that car wreck you had in 1980 and what happened afterwards. Finish that story for us. Tell people what happened in 1980.
Actually, it was 1979, 2 days after Christmas, December 27th, 79. I was going to my girlfriend's house, and I just fell asleep at the wheel, and I don't know. And I had a couple of times I've done that, and I just I don't know why, but the car ride just mesmerized me, I guess, too much. But I fell asleep at the wheel and I hit a tree. I didn't have a seatbelt on, and I slammed into the steering wheel and broke my nose and busted up my face pretty bad. And I was scheduled to be on the U.S. boxing team to go to Poland, and I was looking forward to it because that's where my grandfather, my father's father, was from Warsaw. I was looking forward to going to Poland to, fight on the American team. And that was early March, but I couldn't train because my nose had to be set for 8 weeks, and I just couldn't train for it, so I just withdrew from the trip. And the plane crashed, and I killed everybody, 100% fatality. Everybody was dead. And I remember very clearly when I got home from school in early March, and the phone rang, and it was my mother picked it up, and then she said, "Here, it's your father. He wants to talk to you." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I got on the phone. He said, "You remember that plane trip you're supposed to go on to Poland?" And I figured he was going to rip into me again because he had beat me. Even while I had a broken nose, he punched me in the face. And I figured he was going to rip into me again. I said, "Yeah, what about it?" He said, "They're all dead, son." I said, "What?" He said, "They're all dead." Now, there's a saying, chill goes up your spine. This was the first and only time. This is the first and only time in my life that had actually happened to me for real. I mean, I went numb. It's a weird thing to know that you were slated to be dead. Now I have a couple of other people that I know. Matter of fact, the heavyweight was on the team. They used to joke with him a little. He was always so late. They said you'll be late for your own funeral one time. He missed the plane because he was 2 hours late.
No.
I have another friend that was supposed to be on the plane, but something came up and he couldn't make it. And I don't know, it's just weird. I would have never had a world title of any kind. I wouldn't have even turned pro. I was still an amateur at the time. And, it's a weird thing to know that you were supposed to be dead. But other people will tell you. Now you want to laugh. Now here's a funny story. My mother said to me after that happened, she said, "Don't you believe in God now?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, he saved you by getting you in a car accident." I said, "So he killed 125 people to make a point to me? That's bad math, Mom."
Yeah.
It's just bad math. But you see how people perceive things how they want to.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, the religious stuff is not such a big deal. I do certain religious charities every year because I respect them. They believe what they believe. As long as I see human beings getting help, getting food, getting clothing, getting, help, I don't care. If I can contribute to helping humankind, I don't have a problem with it. No matter what they believe, I don't care. Except I'm a little pissed off at the guys that want to kill us all.
Yeah.
You also flatlined twice in your other accident, right? In like 2007?
Yeah, flatlined twice. Was in a coma for 28 days. And the doctors told me, they said, if you come out of the coma, you're never leaving the hospital. You're going to be on life support forever. And they said 2 weeks later, your body got better. We don't even know why. And I told them, I said, I got good genes. Yeah. My grandfather was born in 1906. He was in a car accident and when he was 17 and was in a coma for 2 weeks, and the doctors told me he never lived past 40, 42, maybe 45. He was born in December 1906. He died in January 2007. 100 years in 1 month.
Gosh.
But see, some here again. Here it is. there are certain people who are born that are prone to cancer. Certain people that are born with terrible diseases. We're not all born equal. We're just not.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or they don't, it's just not the case. I mean, I think everybody would like to believe they're all born the same, but tell Mickey Rooney, the actor who is like 5 feet tall, tell him and Shaquille O'Neal are born equal.
Yeah.
Really.
It's just not the same.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
You still have to, conceptualize things, take it in, and apply yourself where you can.
Yeah.
It's the only way. It's the only way to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I want to ask you about this, Bobby, and this is a good question because I was watching this fight watching this fight on television. It was your big fight. You were 20-0, and you fought Mustafa Hamsho in Atlantic City. And I mean, I was a big fan, so I expected you to win. But Hamsho obviously was a very good pro and fought for the title and everything. You lost the decision. You hung in, lost the decision. Was that a bitter pill, or did you? I remember talking to fighters about this. Do you think you learned a lot from that fight?
Yeah, I saw an article once too in Ring Magazine. Sugar Ray Leonard talked about how in losing his first time with Duran that he learned how to overcome and win. I was having a lot of trouble making the weight. I never fought middleweight again after that because I just couldn't make the weight. I was taking water pills. Luduva gave me water pills to make weight, but you're taking lacy. You're actually weakening your body, and I just couldn't hold it. And Mustafa is a nice guy. We've done a couple of events since then together. And matter of fact, in 2000, I think it was 2011, we did a 10-year memorial. We sparred a couple rounds together for the 9/11 people, and I took him aside and I said, "Listen, do me a favor, hit me in the face with your elbow, and then hit me in the groin." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you did it 20 years ago. You did it 20 years ago, so let's do it again." And so when he did it, the crowd started to boo, and I said, "Wait a minute, you guys, you did it 20 years ago, and you all started clapping." And we just had some fun with it. We had some fun with it. We did a fashion show once with mink coats and things, but that fight was a little bit of a wake-up moment. After that fight, I had a string of good victories and things. And you learn from experience. You learn from. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. But he really had a hard time making weight, and that the water pills just really drained my strength. I'm not saying I would have beat him. I'm not saying that even without the water pills I would have beat him, because he was a very experienced guy, number one contender. I was a kid. I was 20. It was in 1982. I was 20 years old. And I was not as experienced and hadn't been through the grill, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't really worry about the past. And I tease people all the time. I said, it's not your destiny till you actually get there, and it's not your fate till it's behind you. I always believed I was destined to win a world title. As fate would have it, I won 3. I didn't even think I was that good. And it just so happens I was.
Yeah, you really did well after you didn't lose again for 5 years and 12 fights, and during that time period you won the IBF light heavyweight title, I remember that well, and successfully defended it 3 times. How good was that whole period in your life, Bobby? It must have been just pretty damn good.
There's a saying I have for that too that's not probably appropriate for the podcast, but yeah. I was really, really having a good time.
Yeah,
it was.
For sure.
It was one of the highlights of my life. I was dating 4 or 5 women at a time in the casinos, in the hotels, on trips, on planes, I was just doing everything. Everything I ever wanted to do, I pretty much did. So I look back at my life and say, I made a few mistakes, but I also made some great decisions, and I had some really terrific performances that delivered my dreams.
Yeah.
What was it about Prince Charles Williams for you? He beat you twice.
It was too quick for me. He had good speed. He was too quick for me, and I couldn't time him. For whatever reason, I couldn't time him. I mean, I knocked him down in the first fight.
Yep.
Had him nearly out, and the referee gave him a standing 8 count, which there was no such thing as back then in the World Championship. And that I protested that, but they didn't take to it. But that bothered me. And that is what it is. He had the solution for me. I just wasn't defensively quick enough for him, and his jab got through to me too many times. Closed my eyes both times, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Another fight another loss that people never saw coming was Dennis Andrews. Where was your head that night? Were you not as focused, not as motivated?
No, I was sick. I had 103. I had a fever, 103 degrees.
Oh man! Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was so sick. And Tommy said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I said, the hell with it. Let's just do it. We're here." But I was sick as a dog. I threw up for an hour after that fight.
Oh, jeez. Huh.
Look, it is what it is. It's not an excuse, but it's true. And it's funny because I talked years later to Emmanuel Stewart about that fight, because Emmanuel Stewart was his trainer. And Emmanuel Stewart also trained the first guy to ever beat me in the amateurs. A guy named Roddy something. I can't remember his last name. But anyway, he beat me in the Junior Olympics in the Nationals. And Emmanuel Stewart said that, he said, what the fighter's name? Oh, shit.
Andres?
Yes, I'm Mr. Andres.
Yeah.
He said, the hardest he was ever hit, he said, Bobby Czyz hit me harder than I've ever been hit in my life. He said, I wanted to quit. Yeah. I didn't think Dennis Andres was anywhere near my best fights, but but I could still punch a little bit.
Yeah. Also, Bobby, and again, these are such good memories. You beat Leslie Stewart and stopped Mike DeVita, and then you went to North Dakota. He fought Virgil Hill for the WBA belt. He was undefeated, hell of a fighter, future Hall of Famer. He won on his home turf. What are your memories of that fight with Virgil Hill?
Oh, me and Virgil have become friends since then. We hang out once in a while. And even he said after the fight, when the referee said it was a slip, he said, no, that was a clean knockdown. But, I dropped him, but I had some problems with my back at the time. I had been hit by a car. I had my L4 and L5 vertebrae were herniated discs. I had some issues with that. But, again, it's one of those experiences you got to go through. He was also a very quick fighter. One of the guys that was, hard to catch up to.
Mm-hmm.
I used to say this for years about Roy Jones Jr. when people say to me, how good do you think he is? I said, well, he's, great fighter, but I don't know if he's tough. That's what do you mean? I said, he's so quick, he never gets hit. As soon as he started slowing down when he got older, he got knocked out 3 times.
Yeah.
And then he quit.
Yeah.
But For you to be great, you have to be good, and you have to be tough. You can't just be one or the other. You can't just be one or the other. Like Tommy Hearns, great fighter, but not tough. Iran Barkley, who's never going to be grouped in with Tommy Hearns in as far as accomplishments, knocked his ass out and then killed him the second time.
Yeah.
Just beat him silly twice.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. It's if fighter A beats fighter B, fighter B beats fighter C, doesn't mean fighter A can beat fighter C. Styles and the styles have to match up sometimes, and they have to work themselves out. Some guys are tough as hell, but not that great a puncher. Some guys are great boxers, but not that tough.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of mixes to the formula to make a fighter, and there's just you have to break everybody down individually. It's just not a simple thing.
Yeah.
This is the Ringside Boxing Show from Monterey, California. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Responte. We're talking to Bobby Czyz, who's in 3 different halls of fame. The Atlantic City Hall of Fame, the New Jersey Hall of Fame, and the Polish-American Boxing Sports Hall of Fame.
I'm actually in 5 different Hall of Fames.
5 of them.
Okay.
Polish American, Italian American.
Yeah.
New Jersey, Atlantic City, and there's one other one I can't even remember. New York. Yeah, New York. There's another New York Boxing Hall of Fame.
No kidding. Wow.
I'm in 5.
That's cool. That is great.
Well, it just what it does for me, it just adds to my legacy. Adds to my credibility.
Yeah.
So hey, after that second loss to Prince Charles, you were in a streak where you lost 4 of 6 fights. Was that any kind of crossroads for you? Did retirement feel like an option for you at that point?
I retired after the second loss.
Okay.
In '89, I retired, and I was going to go in the restaurant business. So I started working in a restaurant with a friend of mine who owns a restaurant and started to learn it. And I decided I wasn't done. I went on to win 2 more world titles. But I turned around and in March of 1990, fought Uriah Grant, beat him, and just went on from there. Fought Robert Daniels,
Andrew Maynard. Lalonde.
Yep. It was funny. The Andrew Maynard fight, I was a 4.5-to-1 underdog. I had a friend of mine who made more money on the bet. He bet on me. He made more money betting on me than I made fighting the fight.
What was it like to get back to the top of the mountain, Bobby?
Say again?
What was it like to get back to the top of the mountain at that point and stay there for more than 3 years?
Well, when I fought Robert Daniels, and it basically gave me the credentials that I wanted. I'm the real thing. I'm a 2-time world champion, and at that time it was 3-4 different weight divisions, and I knew I was the real thing. You don't win 2 world titles in 2 different divisions if you're just a Johnny-come-lately gets lucky. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was the real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you finished your career against Holyfield, Evander Holyfield in 1996, and then Corey Sanders, quite a bit bigger than you, more than 2 years later. You were 36 by then, Bobby. Did you have anything really left then? I mean, all the fights, all the amateur fights, you're 36. How much did you have left in the tank at that point?
Well, evidently not enough. But Corey Sanders was just too big for me, 245.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just too big. The Holyfield fight was a little screwed up because somebody did something in that fight, put something on his gloves. My vision the day before the fight was 20/15 in both eyes. 2 days after the fight, it was 20/45, 20/50.
Oh man.
Yes.
And I remember Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper called me a week after the fight and said the same thing happened to him when he dropped Holyfield in the fight that they had.
Really? Wow.
He said in the very next round, he said I couldn't see a thing. And I found out 2 years later from the state police in New Jersey that state police from New York, that they believe it was Tabasco sauce that he had on the gloves. Now, when they first tested the gloves, they said it's inconclusive. Now, there's no such thing as inconclusive. There's either something on the gloves or there's not.
Yeah. Right.
There's no inconclusive. Inconclusive means what? That there's some possible shit on there? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. But the money was with Holyfield fighting Tyson. I get it. Follow the money, you follow the agenda.
Yeah. 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 So I've got to ask you this, Bobby. You know, all these fights, 50-some fights. Who do you think was the best fighter that you faced in your career?
A lot of people would say it's Holyfield, but it's probably Corey Sanders.
Wow, that's surprising.
I think Corey Sanders would beat Holyfield. I just do. That they never crossed paths, and Corey Sanders eventually got killed trying to stop a robbery. He got shot. And it is what it is.
Yeah, it was tragic what happened to Corey Sanders. How about Showtime? I mean, I remember, here we go again. I remember you as a commentator on Showtime. You were excellent. You have mostly good memories of your years at Showtime, or is there a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth about that whole experience?
Oh, no, I loved my job there. I mean, I'm just a little bit upset about how it ended.
Yes.
And I was lied to more than once.
Yes.
And yes, and I find it very ironic. As Jay Larkin was the president at the time, and when he fired me, I got a little upset, and I said, "I hope you die of brain cancer." And he died of brain cancer.
Oh.
Now I wish I was that powerful all the time.
Yeah.
Be a lot of dead people in the world.
Last thing for you. We were talking off the air, and I know you. I'm a journalist. I know you can't say squat about this yet, but there's a possibility we may be seeing you on a broadcast again in the very near future. You might have an opportunity coming up, and that's the best news we could have, right?
Yeah, from what I understand, they may be starting up, maybe broadcasting again in November.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. Well,
that's
man,
fantastic.
We'll look forward to that. So, Bobby, you've always been a straight shooter and a stand-up guy on this show, and we wish you the absolute best going forward. Always fun talking to you. Thanks, man, for sharing so much of your time today and yourself on the Ringside Boxing Show. Always good.
You guys have a good day.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again.
Bobby Czyz, Hall of Famer on the Ringside Boxing Show. Hey, do you like this podcast? Do us a solid. Tell other boxing fans about us. Post the Ringside Boxing Show on your social media outlets. Help us grow. Also, if you haven't yet discovered the #1 website in the world for daily boxing news, you got something to do right now, something to add to your bucket list. We update ringsideboxingshow.com every single day with the biggest headlines and most interesting stories. If you're a hardcore fan, this should be your first stop every morning and might be the only boxing site you need to visit all day. Discover us right now and you will be amazed, guaranteed. ringsideboxingshow.com. We want to thank our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwan Zahid, and my partner here, John J. Responti, for their weekly contributions to this show, along with our outstanding British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin. And another huge thanks to today's featured guest, 3-division world champion, 3-time world champion, Showtime championship boxing analyst, New Jersey Boxing Hall of Famer, Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Famer, Polish American Sports Hall of Famer, New York Hall of Famer. I'm leaving something out. Bobby Czyz, the matinee idol. And, of course, we thank you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience again today. Keep your chin tucked, and we will talk to you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. It's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass.